Alright, it says it's starting, and I'm just waiting for it to say that I'm live. And it says that I'm live. So, Carrot, Andrew, thanks for showing up a little early here and being in the chat. That kind of means a little to me. Well, it means a lot to me, actually. Thank you. So, I guess I'm going to start off by telling you how my day went. I woke up about, let's see, it's 4 o'clock. I woke up about 21 hours ago. My cousin called me. She wanted to know how my mom was doing. And at that time, my mom was in the hospital. I spoke to her. Well, I can't say last night right now, but I spoke to her Thursday night. And she seemed okay. Yeah, and, I told my cousin the same thing that I'm about to tell you. Thursday night when she called me, yes, she was in the ICU. She sounded kind of funny, which I told her because she had a tube up her nose. And she said she was going to be okay. And, knowing how tough and how strong and how resilient my mom is, I just took what she said, because like I said, I know how strong this woman is. And, I told my cousin, yeah, she's in the ICU. She had some internal bleeding, and that's why the tube was up her nose. It actually ran down to her stomach, and they were draining blood and fluid out of her stomach. But, a little internal bleeding, not really something that's something my mom's been through and came out of. She's been through a lot. I'll get into my mom's medical history in a bit, but that was about 7:30 in the morning that I was telling my cousin about this. And my cousin said she was going to go see my mom. Alright. Figured she would anyways. My mom and my cousin were real close. I, at that point, left the house to go get breakfast for me and Kathy. We come back from the store, and my phone's ringing. I ran in to pick it up, and my machine kind of beat me to it, and I hear my cousin's voice, and she sounds like she's freaking out, and she's saying, "Please, pick up the phone, it's an emergency." I grab the phone. I'm like, "What's going on?" And she hands the phone off to a nurse, and the nurse is asking me if I want them to resuscitate my mom. And I'm just like, yes, please. What the hell happened? Do whatever you can to keep her alive. Please. It was at that point that I jumped in my truck and hauled ass down there. She was gone before I got there. And the thing is, my mom, initially, she went into the hospital because she had a fractured hip. Now, we didn't find out she had a fractured hip till after she went in there. This was Sunday. She had been unable to get out of bed for a couple of days, and I finally urged her to get to the hospital. Monday, she had dialysis. That's the other thing. My mom's a dialysis patient. She's been on dialysis for the last 24 years. She had her dialysis treatment, and they replaced her hip on Monday, I believe. They also had her up and walking around. Tuesday, they had her up and walking around. Wednesday, what happened Wednesday? Wednesday, she said she wasn't feeling well. She was feeling very nauseous. Didn't want me to come and visit. I did visit her Tuesday. Wednesday, she was feeling nauseous. She didn't want me to come by. I went and took a walk over the bridge Wednesday night. And in the process, sprained my ankle. And Thursday morning, my mom and I were talking. And I had said to her that I sprained my ankle. And she's like, well, you don't have to come and visit me today. You sprained your ankle. Take it easy. Relax. Rest. So I did. And Thursday night was when I heard from her again. Now, I will say this. Earlier Thursday evening, like around 6-ish, I did hear from one of her nurses that she was going into the ICU. I don't worry too much about my mom generally because of everything she's been through. And when I did worry a little bit when, here it was 6 o'clock when they called me. And around 8-ish, I called back at the ICU asking, hey, how's she doing? Because I hadn't heard back from her. And that's, a little bit after that was when she called me and said, she was okay. So I didn't worry. And, then yesterday morning happened. Yeah, I've been a wreck ever since. Obviously. What's got me most wrecked about this is, like I said, let me give you a little medical history on my mom. Many, many years ago when I was a teenager, she had kidney failure. It's a hereditary condition called polycystic kidneys, or polycystic kidney disease. She was pretty much born with cysts on her kidneys. It affects most people in my family. As far as I know, I'm one of the lucky ones. The only real cure for it is a kidney transplant. And the kidneys, of course, have to shut down before you even become eligible for a transplant. My mom when her kidneys shut down, she was on the transplant list. Twice she got called for a kidney. Both times it wasn't a perfect match, so they couldn't do it. But she was on kidney dialysis for 24 years. That's a long time for a human being to be on kidney dialysis. She would have been 66 years old in August. So, she pretty much outlived everyone in her family. Most everyone in her family who's had this condition, who's had this disease, died in their 40s. The only other lucky one is my uncle, who died... Oh, goodness. He was 50 when he died. So, I don't know, I actually have to take my shirt off and back myself up to a mirror, because I've actually got a tattoo in his memory on my back, and it's got the dates on it, and I don't quite remember what the days are. But I think he was like around 50 when he passed. So, and that's not quite the end of my mom's medical history. When I was in college, a couple weeks before I got my Bachelor of Science in Electronics Engineering, she was going into the hospital for a triple bypass surgery, and she had a 10% chance to live. She was at my college graduation. She saw me take that walk across the stage and get my degree. And that's one of the things I keep thinking about, because that's one of the happier memories for both of us. But for a good portion of the time she was on kidney dialysis, she was taking public transportation, especially when I didn't have a vehicle. She was taking public transportation to and from, walking a portion of the way. When my dad was in a nursing home, my dad passed on 5 years ago. When my dad was in a nursing home, she was taking public transportation there and visiting him every day. Sometimes if she went to dialysis that day, maybe she didn't visit him, but usually, more often than not, she visited him and had to hike a considerable distance, like about a half a mile, to go see him. In her condition, I mean, she was never really the healthiest person, and I mean, she still persevered. Honestly, I think of my mom, and I'm just like, she is the portrait of, like, strength and toughness and perseverance, and putting, like, everyone above herself. More recently, she was having heart trouble, and she had a pacemaker. Matthew C., you have no idea the level of badass my mom was. Seriously. She scoffs at the Hulk. But she had a pacemaker put in, oh goodness. Kathy, how long ago did my mom get that pacemaker? Hey. How long ago did my mom get her pacemaker? Was it a year ago or more like 2 years ago?
Around maybe a little over a year ago.
Yeah, it was some time ago. It was at least a year ago. And you know, she's still toughed everything out. You know, even
the woman who walked around on a fucking broken hip.
And yeah, that's what I'm kind of leading up to. Starting a few months ago. Actually, no. About 6 months ago was when we started having to monitor her heart rate, because her pacemaker was kind of freaking out on her a little bit.
We had to monitor it before then, but not as closely as we
Yeah.
did.
But her pacemaker was freaking out a little bit on her, and was kind of jolting her randomly. And I mean, that was scary. That was some scary shit. And I saw that thing, like, zap her. And, I mean, there was one morning I was giving her a ride to her dialysis treatment. And she's sitting there in my truck, and all of a sudden she jumped, and I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Remember the morning when I was helping to get ready for dialysis? She
Yeah.
fell right in my arms.
Yeah.
And I had to call the ambulance from her pacemaker going off.
Yeah, there was another time she fell right in my girlfriend's arms. And when that started, she was put on medication, and some of the medication she was on, it depended on what her heart rate was or what her blood pressure was in order to know which medication to take. And that was another thing. My mom was taking an entire pharmacy's worth of medication. But over the last several months, year or so, Kathy, my girlfriend, I love her. I love this woman to no end. And she's pretty much been my mom's nurse. But we've had to, you know, like I said, monitor her heart rate and her blood pressure so we knew which medicine to give her. Or she knew which medicine to take. And in the last month, she went from walking around normally to using a walker. And I think it was around then that her hip had fractured, and we didn't know it. And I mean, she's walking around an entire month on a fractured hip and just still going. Until a week ago, this past Friday, I pick her up at dialysis, and she's in a lot of pain. And I bring her home. She went to bed and didn't get out of bed till Sunday morning, when I'm convinced her that she needs to see a doctor. So, I mean, when I was talking to her doctor after she passed, and one thing he said about her is she defied everything he knew about medicine because of how strong she was, because of, you know, how what she'd been through and what she was able to handle. And just, it's crazy that she's gone. I mean, it's shocking. And when I saw her, I was there. She was laying in the bed, and I knew she had passed on. She was cold. And I grabbed her hand, hoping that she'd wake up, because that was the thing. She always bounced back. And some of her friends, they joked around about her like they'd compare her to the Energizer Bunny, that she just keeps going and going and going. And the other thing is, at her dialysis clinic, if somebody came in there and they had just gone on, just started dialysis, and they were like depressed about it, they'd tell them, go have a talk to Tony. That's my mom's name, Tony. Go have a talk to Tony. She's been through this. She's been doing this a long time. And I mean, she helped people, feel better about being on dialysis and realize it's not, a death sentence, that you can live a long time on it, because she did. And the other thing about her doctor is people would ask him, because he was a nephrologist, if, somebody got diagnosed with kidney failure and they were going on dialysis, they'd ask him, well, how long can you live on dialysis? And he'd tell them, well, hey, I've got this patient that's been on it for 20 odd years. Thanks, NFL Guru. My mom was a big fan of the Miami Dolphins, and one of the happier memories I have is when she actually got to see, not only to see a Miami Dolphins football game, but it was back when they retired Dan Marino's jersey, and they also put a statue up to honor him. And I've actually got a picture of her standing next to that statue. She wasn't just a big Miami Dolphins fan, she was a fan of Dan Marino. Thanks, Main Gun. Yeah, Matthew, she was a little reluctant to see the doctor. She always was. And the thing is, I mean, she was just the kind of person who would tough it out through anything. A couple weeks ago, ContraPoints did a live stream where he was actually commentating on a video he made about a year ago, that he mentioned me in the video he made about a year ago. And then he mentioned me again in this live stream he did a couple weeks ago. And one of the things he said is, I don't know what the deal is with this person. That's really all he said about me. Well, the deal with me is I'm stubborn as hell. I'm tough as nails. Or at least I try to be strong and independent. And I owe it all to my mom. I really do. She was very stubborn, but, kind of in a good way. She was strong and tough and tried to be independent and taught me to be very independent. She'd always tell me about my grandfather and how he used to work 3 jobs to support his family if he had to. And there were quite a few times that's what he had to do, and that's what he did. And she'd kind of hold me to a standard. And because of that, I'd always kind of hold myself to a standard. The downfall to that is, I don't know if it's really a downfall, but I kind of expect everybody else to be on the same standard. It's kind of why I say shit like, hey, when I was in college, at one point I was working 2 jobs. What's your problem? Why can't you do that? Hey, I'm changing careers over here. I'm teaching myself how to weld. What the hell's your problem? It's why I say things like that, because of my upbringing, and because, that's a lot of it gets into. That's how I was raised, and my mom was very much about teaching me to be very independent. And like I said, I thank my mom so much for that. And the thing about my mom is also, one of the reasons why she raised me to be so independent, there was 14 years between her and my dad. And my dad was kind of from the old school of that there was men's work and women's work. And because of that, my father went to his grave not knowing how to balance a checkbook or wash dishes or do his laundry or any of that. And those were things my mom taught me how to do. because she was married to a man who went from mommy's house to wifey's house, and she didn't want me to turn out like that. She wanted me to be able to take care of myself. So, thanks, Mom, for that. She also taught me how to cook. It's my love for Italian. My mom was Italian, and it's my love for Italian food that comes from her. And old family traditions. But, I love cooking, I love baking, and I owe a lot of that to her. When her health started to fail, I started taking over a lot of things she used to do. I was doing the cooking. I was doing more of the cleaning. And, the funny thing is, my dad was always this uber manly man. And that's just how my dad was. Like, I'm sure we've all seen the overly manly man meme. That was my father. Well, that, and also, if you've ever seen the old TV series All in the Family, yeah, my dad pretty much was Archie Bunker. That kind of a man. And I'm actually surprised he didn't have that much of an issue with my mom teaching me how to, do what he considered to be women's work. Shit that he never learned to do and that he thought he was above. Because he always kind of wanted me to be every bit the man he was, and well, yeah, things just didn't quite turn out that way. In fact, I spent a good portion of my life trying to be that person, and failing miserably at it. It took me a long time to come out of the closet. Like, not until I was 25. So, there's that. And then when I did, I spent so many years, kind of living up to his image that I didn't know who I was. So it took me some time to also figure that out. The thing is, when I started coming out and I started experimenting, shall we say, I did, after some time, talk to my mom about it. Funny thing is, my mom was so understanding about it. So understanding about it. And so accepting. I felt like I should have come out sooner. And when Kathy moved in with me, which this is getting up on 7 or 8 years ago, and Kathy and I had a long distance relationship for a couple of years before that. I never told my mom that Kathy was transgender. So when it came time for my mom to meet Kathy, I had to say to her, "Oh, by the way, this girlfriend of mine, she's transgender." And my mom was totally accepting. Totally accepting. And, I know my father would have never... Oh, hell no. My father was about as homophobic and transphobic as can be. I mean, he wouldn't let me watch Mr. Rogers when I was a little kid because he thought it would make me gay. He wouldn't let me listen to Boy George albums because, again, he thought it would make me gay. On the other hand, my mom, I mean, she just she wanted people to be themselves and just accept people, for who they were, as long as they weren't hurting anyone. So, there is that. But I miss her. I miss her so much. I mean, she was my mom. Of course she was a big part of my life, but the fact that I've been taking care of her for so many years and helping her out so much, and sometimes, because I do have a temper, because I do get angry, and I don't hold back, I did occasionally snap at her, and I feel awful about every time I did that, but she understood. She understood that I get mad. She understood that I get mad. She understood that I get angry, and I feel awful about every time I did that, but she understood. She understood that I get mad. 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 my father went to his grave not knowing all the details. There was one instance several years ago, when I was living with some friends, and then I had moved back in with my parents, and I was going out to a nightclub with some friends. They were picking me up, and I left the house in a short skirt and a corset and a pair of high heels, and with my hair all teased up, and my mom told me about the conversation that happened after I walked out the door. My father said to her, "The fuck was that?" And my mom said to him, "That was your son." And my father said, "Not my son." And he didn't talk to me for an entire month. And for some reason, he got the idea in his head that I was doing that to get free drinks at the bar, because he thought the bar I was going to was having a ladies' night, and I was doing this to get free drinks. No. Not the case, Dad. This is part of who I am. But I guess it was just easier for him to think that I was trying to scam on a ladies' night. I guess. I don't know. Decided to create his own narrative and stick to that. He also thought I was going to wind up in a nut house because I was doing that. He wasn't quite aware that they don't do that to people anymore. I'm holding it together. Like I said, my father never knew all the details. My mom did. And and like I said, she was accepting. The funny thing is, me performing as a drag queen, I actually used to joke around with my mom about that and blame it on her, because my mom was like a huge fan of Cher. I grew up listening to Cher. Many years ago, I forget if it was on her 4th or 5th farewell tour, took my mom to a Cher concert and had an amazing time there. And Cyndi Lauper opened for Cher at this concert. Like I said, I forget which farewell tour it was. It was a great concert, great show. My mom was so happy to be here there because, like I said, she fucking loves Cher. And I mean, my mom was a fan of Cher back in the 60s, back in the days of Sonny and Cher. And just for her to be at that concert, that made her so happy. Those are the things I like to remember. That was a good concert we went to too. And like I said, it was Cyndi Lauper, who I fucking have adored since the 80s, and it was Cher. And I like Cher's music. My mom always loved Cher. And when I started performing as a drag queen, I used to blame that on my mom. I say, "Well, Mom, I grew up listening to Cher. Of course I wound up being a drag queen." And I mean, we always got a good laugh out of that. Matthew, to give you an idea, I'm not on hormones. I've actually never taken hormones. My makeup skills back then were not as good as they are now. Was I passing back then? Well, kinda, yeah. I mean, I did fool a few guys. I mean, not that was what I was trying to do. I wasn't really trying to be a trap, but I passed well enough that people who didn't know me thought I was a girl. So there was that. trying to think of a good story from my past. Trying to think. Actually, here's kind of a story that doesn't quite involve that. Doesn't quite directly involve my mom, but still, it's. I always thought of it as a funny one. This happened at one of the hotels where I work, or where I used to work. There was this young woman. Who, I don't know what exactly was going on, but she was going through some really emotional shit. She was pounding on the door of this one room, and like they didn't want her in there. And I mean, she was a bit of a wreck. And she actually wanted the police down there. So I called the cops, got them down there. Shortly after that, I get a phone call from this woman who was very, very concerned because her son was at the hotel and there was a party in one of the hotel rooms and she knew her son was there. And this woman was keeping an eye on the sheriff's department's website and saw that police were at the hotel and she was worried about her son. Now that sounds a hell of a lot like my mom. That's something my mom would do. My mom always constantly worried about me. She was very protective. She loved me. Of course she was protective, right? But like, I'm trying to convince this woman that the cops are not here for this party. Wherever this party is, I don't know about it, so they're behaving. I said, and I finally just, like, I was having trouble getting it through this woman, so I finally said to her, look, ma'am, unless your son looks like about a 20-something-year-old girl, because that's who they're here for, the cops are not here for your son. Right after I said that, I'm like, oh, shit. What do I look like? A 20-something-year-old girl. At least when I make myself pretty, I do. So, and that just made me think of my mom. And, because I'm like, if somebody was saying that to my mom, she'd be like, well, actually. But my mom was always accepting. I mean, I will say this. When my mom was aware that at least I was having gender issues. Because, like, it took me a long time to understand myself, to figure myself out. But when my mom knew what was going on, I just usually just, if I was getting ready to go to a nightclub, I just got ready here as opposed to getting ready at a friend of mine's place, which is what I used to do. And there was a couple times where she'd even say to me that I looked like a whore. Or puttana is what she used to say. It's pretty much Italian for whore. And I'd always like, okay, if that's what I look like, then I must be dressed right. What? Don't judge me.
Too late.
My girlfriend's being all judgmental over here. One of the other things my mom and I always used to joke around about, especially after I came out, was that she always wanted a daughter. So, she kind of had one, I guess. But, trying to remember the good times. Trying not to think about the bad times. I mean, even with my dad, there was a lot of bad blood between me and my dad. There really was. And it was different 5 years ago when he passed. I mean, don't get me wrong, it hit me like it hit me. But not like this. When I was on my way to the hospital this morning, I said to Kathy, losing my dad was one thing. Losing my mom is something totally, totally different. I don't want to lose my mom. And that's what happened. My mom and I were close. And I was hoping to get there in time, thinking that maybe if I was there, maybe, you know, she'd pull through. I didn't make it there, but I don't think I can really blame myself. I don't think I can really blame myself. But yeah. I needed to get this off my chest. I felt my girlfriend's trying to tickle me.
I don't try, I do.
Yeah. And she went so quick. And we're not sure exactly what it was. I know she had several large hernias that couldn't really be operated on. So it may have had something to do with those. I know she was like I said, she had a bowel obstruction. They think her stomach was filling up. So I mean, there's a lot of things that were going on, and I think that, along with the fact that her body, had been through a lot, I guess she couldn't hang on anymore, I guess. I don't really know totally for sure. I miss her. I can express how much I miss her. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me this is not. I think it was her time. And I think it's okay for me to be a little irrational right now. Because I do like to think that she's with her sisters. And I mean, her sisters died in their 40s. She hung on till she was almost 66. And Jalazin, I'm sorry to hear that. I like to think my mom's with her sisters. And with her little brother, my uncle. And, with her parents. And, yes, and with my dad. Probably giving my dad all kinds of hell. And I like to think she's looking down on me knowing I'm going to be okay. Knowing how much of her is in me and how much of what she taught me is there. I hope I can live up to it. I hope I can be half as strong the person that she was. And half as good of a person as she was. Because, I mean, she put everyone ahead of herself. Everyone. And that was just the kind of person my mom was. And she liked the Miami Dolphins. And she liked owls. That's why I've got owls on here. Both in the thumbnail and in the background. As she used to put it, she liked owls with ears. Even though those are really... Well, they're not really horns. They're just like tufts of feathers. But... I miss her so much. And she's only been gone less than a day, and it's going to be hard going on without her. I mean, I thought she was going to be around a good good long time. Thanks, Ken. Yeah. That's... You know, I had a lot of other plans for today. Well, yesterday, I guess. And none of them involved my mom dying. But I don't know. Aw. Yeah. Big group hugs, everyone. I do have to say this. This is a bit of therapy, a bit of closure. Matt, I'm 40. Thanks, Mangun. Thanks, Jelazin. Hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, I thank everyone for being here. I really do. For being here for me. I'm so thankful to have my girlfriend who's been helping my mom all along. And, who's been here for me. And my cousin was there. My cousin was there when things started going south for my mom. Yesterday. I still cannot believe she's gone, and that it just happened so fast. But at least she's not in pain. She's not suffering. Look in the chat. Yeah.
She's impressive.
Yeah, Kathy really, really loved and cared about my mom. She did. I can't thank her enough. She was... I'm... Yeah, that's what I keep thinking, that she's not suffering anymore, that, if like I said, if there's an afterworld, she's there with her sisters and her brother and my dad. And it's a hell of a way to put things, Matt. Yeah. Yep. It's a lot of bullshit she won't have to deal with anymore. So... I think I'm running out of things to say here. But thanks everyone for being here with me. And if you're watching this after it's streamed off in the future, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I definitely need to take a break and get my head in order. Yeah, she loved great horned owls. Man, yeah, she really did. Thanks, Green Eggs. right. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and like I said, thanks for everyone for coming out here. I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream and maybe try and get some rest, and maybe I can get some rest now. I mean, I've been awake for almost 24 hours at this point. Yeah. But tell the best stories. Yeah, I was wondering what was happening to your keyboard, Ken. Alright, let me go here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna try to get some rest and try to decompress, and I've still got more family and friends to call and arrangements to make. But love you all so much, and thank you. Have a good day.